your roster, what do you see?
See a good roster, young guys that are looking to make a mark. I think the way you start when you come into a program and the way you finish when you come into a program plays in for some of the older guys, and they want to make a mark and an impact on how they're leaving the program. And then some of the new guys are really excited about the opportunity to make their mark early in their careers. And so what I see is a group that's eager, and I see a group that's lacks a lot of experience in terms of being successful at this level. Not all the way through, but in parts, and they're embracing that and understanding that that's just a fact, and we get a chance to take those facts and make a positive out of as much as we can.
You come out of the spring, you have some ideas on starting rotation, bullpen, lineup roles, or there's some position battles or all position battles? What comes into with only 3 weeks left basically before you're...
Yeah, obviously we're looking to, tomorrow is our first official day of practice. We've been going now since the start of January, and we have a pretty good base on what happened during the course of fall ball, but pretty much everything's still wide open. I don't want to be a guy that has a volleying rotation around every single week and all that kind of stuff. I really want to establish roles and have these guys earn their roles, and they establish those things throughout the course of the scrimmages that we're about to starting tomorrow. Some guys would have a little bit of a lean. Obviously, a healthy Kenyon Yovan is clearly a factor, and he's not going to be, a healthy Kenyon Yovan could easily be the best closer in the country or potentially the best Friday night guy in the country. And so, that's a plus. And then other guys as well could have more solid roles than others based off of maybe what they've done a little bit in the past. But all these guys are going to have to prove it with the new staff.
Do you have a healthy Kenyon Yovan?
We have an optimistic Kenyon Yovan. So yes, knock on wood, he is healthy right now, and he is on a throwing program that's building him up the proper way. And so to answer the question, yes, we do.
Is he a closer or starter then? You said it could be either one.
Well, he could be either one, and he's been successful in both roles. And so whatever's best for the ball club is how we'll use him, and it'll be consistent.
What's been the biggest challenge for you taking over this program so far now that you've been here a little bit?
Well, I think identifying what the pluses and maybe some of the pros, just the pros and cons, figuring out what the pros and cons are about the club and the roster that we have. The good news is I'm not feeling my way around a dark room about where everything is located in Eugene or at the University of Oregon, or where the dugouts are located, or the locker room, and those things really do give you a peace of mind. To be able to reflect on the good times that we have had in the past and stuff like that clearly help to understand any of the pitfalls that happen. I really don't have enough time to be able to dive into too many of those things. I think we need to look at whatever we have right now, address what we have now, and try to improve them and get them better and develop these guys to where we can contend for the things that we're after.
A few guys you have caught your eye as far as improvement or rookies coming in?
Well, let's start with improvement. There's some guys that through the practices have really shown signs of improvement. A.J. Miller, tremendous improvements from what we've seen. A guy that hasn't had a tremendous pass record of success at the Division I level, and I think that's a theme that we're dealing with right now with our roster. Not a lot of our guys on our roster have a tremendous level of Pac-12, top 25 levels of success on the playing field yet in games. And so A.J. Miller, he's had tremendous strides. He's been probably the most notable of the returners, although there's a pretty good chunk of returners that have made huge strides. Sam Nowitzki, a lot of innings played. He's made big strides on what he's been able to provide for us so far. Kenyon Yovan being healthy, that's a big improvement from a year ago where he wasn't healthy after the first week or so of the season. That's a big deal. And then on the pitching staff, there's a lot of strides that have been made, so it appears. When it comes to Hunter Bro, the kid's really throwing the ball well. He doesn't have a track record of success at this level, but he's throwing the ball exceptionally well. Cullen Kafka, throwing the ball exceptionally well. Robbie Ahlstrom was a tremendous competitor last year, and we've seen a very consistent Robbie Ahlstrom through the early going. On the new guy front, there's some new guys that have really, and that's not excluding some of the others. There's others that have made great improvements that I'm leaving out. On the new guy front, Anthony Hall, freshman from San Diego, big, strong kid, power hitting, left-handed hitting guy that can play all three outfield spots. He can DH for you, he can play first base. It's going to be a tough job to take in terms of Gabe Matthews, who's also been on the improvement train, a tremendous One of the guys that has actually been very successful in the past, and yet he's shown tremendous improvement, is Gabe. But Anthony Hall can be a swing man and play a lot of those spots, and he's shown really promising outlook. Same with Jack Scanlon as a catcher from New York, freshman kid. Again, big, strong kid, left-handed hitting guy, great arm, and he's got a big future. Gavin Grant, shortstop, junior college kid, comes in as a sophomore, and he looks like he will probably, as it stands today, he's going to need to continue to show it. But so far, he's shown that he'd probably get the nod to be our starting shortstop. And so amongst others, there's been a lot of guys improving, which has been really fun to be a part of on a daily basis.
Sam Olson's a guy, local kid. I think you recruited him. You were recruiting him when you were at Purdue, right? And then you come here, and he comes here. What's just sort of you've seen out of him as a kid had some junior college success and played at a D1 level for a year?
Well, high school success as well. So the guy's been known as a strong hitter. Comes from Sheldon High School. I did recruit him, not so much at Purdue, but back before I left Oregon, we were recruiting him. I really like Sam and his makeup and his competitiveness. I like the offensive approach he brings. Not the tallest of kids, but real strength, kind of Popeye forearm kind of guy. And he's a catcher. He's working amongst the other three guys at the catching position right now to win a job. He's been tremendous. I like him a lot. Sammy's a really good hard worker, and he'll definitely add to the program.
What do you like about this area, and what was the biggest reason you decided to return and take on this gig?
Too long to discuss. There's a lot of pluses. I mean, you're living in Oregon, going, being a part of the University of Oregon structure, and the fabric here is pretty spectacular. I mean, making national news right now, what this place is doing in other sports, women's basketball, football, men's basketball, track and field. I mean, the list goes on with what's going on at Oregon. It's a special time. And then just proximity to where I was brought up is key, and so closer to family, closer to friends, a lot of great memories. And I think there's so much to sell. Not that there wasn't in the Midwest. I think there was a lot to sell out there as well. But this has just touched me and my family's hearts, and we really love it here.
How much have you had to work on guys, Colin? You mentioned guys who haven't had a lot of success at this level, but who had great success at high school, junior college. How much have you had to just kind of rebuild confidence in guys through the last couple of months to come in here and feel like, hey, we know who you were when you arrived and what we think you can be?
Well, kind of a tricky question because, all the kids and everybody who gets to this level had success before they got here, or else they wouldn't be here. And so understanding that first and foremost, what got you here, what can we build off of, and then specifically my staff's hard work in terms of the technology, applying the technology that we've implemented in the program to be able to use that as a resource for player development has been huge. And our administration, between Rob Mullins, Eric Riddell, and others, have allowed us to be able to purchase some of those things, which aren't cheap, to where we can implement those and help our guys. Time will tell how much those things really have a huge impact, but those have had an initial impact on their confidence because they can see the developments that they're making in numerical form in a lot of the data, and it's presentable to them on a daily basis, and they can see it in real time. Literally after a kid gets done throwing a bullpen or done throwing a pitch or hitting a ball in a batting practice round, they get immediate feedback digitally, and they can understand what's going on in their swing, both good and bad. And so anytime somebody can get real-time feedback on their job, regardless of the job, I think it's productive.
At what point does that technology become overload? I mean, kid's got to stand in the batter's box, and his head's got to be empty when pitch comes. So how do you kind of make sure that they can get from one to the other?
Well, I mean, you get 0.3 of a second figured out, right? So
Right.
your head better be empty. Yeah, I think that can be a coach's pitfall. And I think a lot of the coaches right now are trying to meet with their analytics team and make sure that it is an overload. And if it is overload, all you're doing is using technology in a negative way to weaken the confidence of your player and ultimately their success. And so as a coach, understanding tech, but not making it such the overwhelming focal point that you inundate a kid and clutter his mind is absolutely critical, and we're all learning what those boundaries are.
He might have been mentioned earlier, but Evan Williams was someone that was slightly inconsistent last year at a big walk-off home run. What have you seen from him in fall ball coming into the beginning of the season?
Well, I'd guess he's probably about 20 pounds stronger, in weight, and it's good weight. I mean, just physically, I think the fans would notice a different look, not only to Evan, but a lot of our guys. They've devoted a ton of time in the weight room, which is apparent just physically, and all the metrics that go with that in terms of lean body mass and lean, the muscle mass and all that kind of stuff represent that as well. So it's more than just the eye test. Evan's made tremendous progress in terms of his defensive ability. I think in one aspect, one of the biggest things I saw in week 1 of our program is the weakness of our outfield defensive play. And it's probably been the greatest improvement, or one of the greater improvements that we've seen so far with our work that we've done, is the outfield defense. So Evan, when you bring him up, he's been a big part of that. AJ Miller, Smitty, those guys have really improved their defensive look. And Anthony Hall, a kid that I mentioned earlier as being a swingman, first week he didn't look very good at all defensively. Not many of our guys did, and those guys have really come a long way. And it's fun to watch them now in practice and in live reps, seeing those guys run around and catch fly balls that they weren't even coming close to before.
You healthy? Is there anybody who missed
Haven't had
camp or any sort of injuries lingering into the season type thing?
No, knock on wood, we haven't had any injuries, and hopefully we can continue that.
Your comment, Bryce Betcher, 3-star athlete. How'd you get him to commit here at Oregon for baseball?
I'd like to stay out of the recruiting discussions and so forth for right now. All I can tell you is the recruiting piece has been, we've been extremely active in our recruiting world, and the kids that we have coming our way we're excited about.
I know you don't want to talk about recruiting. Anything with Mario and Robbie Ashford? Or what's your opinion on the 2-sport? Bryce is a guy that played 3. No comment?
Yeah, for me, regardless of the name, we're excited. It doesn't take a genius to see that these kids are really elite at what they're doing. Multiple sport athletes is something that's just fantastic for a coach, and it usually means that a kid is raw in one area of his game because he's devoted so much more time to other sports. When we can get a multi-sport guy, I think what you see the growth curve and learning curve go through the roof when they start getting more specialized attention in one of the sports. And so with all the multi-sport athletes that we're going to be recruiting, we're going to recruit a ton. With all these guys, we're excited about it. These guys are really, really talented people that are doing things on an athletic basis. Their body movements in other sports are going to help them with simple body movements in baseball, because most of the other sports are probably a little bit more athletic than baseball to begin with.